to Mao. 2 balls and a strike to count on Taylor. Reyes fires, swinging a drive, deep left field. This is way back. Walk the ball. Chris Taylor.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into DodgerHeads, presented by DodgerBlue.com. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined today by Justin Lorber. Justin, some potentially exciting prospect news for the Dodgers. The Dodgers have a space in their rotation for Wednesday in Pittsburgh, and reports are that Ryan Pepiot is on the taxi squad and is in contention, in the conversation to be a starter for that game. Robbie Erlin is the other one mentioned. Juan Toribio of MLB.com is kind of reporting this. So immediate reaction, Justin, when you hear that one of the top prospects for the Dodgers, Ryan Pepiot, might be making his Major League debut in this week.
It's a lot of fun. It's exciting. I think anytime a top prospect comes up, it's exciting. People, I know for me, I think back in recent years to Will Smith's debut, Gavin Lutz's debut. You want to go a few years back, or debut. So it's fun. I think, potentially going against the Pittsburgh Pirates is not worst case scenario, far from it for a guy making his Major League debut, but we'll have to see what they decide to go with.
Yeah, so Pepiot this year at AAA has made 6 starts. He's got an ERA of 2.05. He's got 36 strikeouts in 26 innings. He's striking out 3 times as many guys as he is walking. And all of that is in the PCL. Oftentimes I joke, when I tell people AAA hitting stats, I get all sorts of people on Twitter telling me it's AAA, everybody hits. Well, against Ryan Pepiot, apparently nobody hits. Do you think, we're going to get to the roster piece here because I've got questions about the 40-man and how that all fits, but do you, just from your perspective as a guy who follows prospects for the Dodgers and sort of digs into this, is Pepiot ready to be a Major League starter today?
Well, it depends what you mean by Major League starter. I think that term is ambiguous enough to mean multiple things. Is he a guy who is going to go out and give you 7 innings like a Clayton Kershaw or Walker Buehler? No, I wouldn't expect that from him, and I don't think they'll ask that of him. But can he go out and give them 5 innings and hand things over to the bullpen? Absolutely. I think that's something you're seeing a lot from young pitchers, especially when they first come up nowadays, and I think that's something that he can give.
Now, it's a hard comp because I'm going to ask you to compare him to a guy who's been up for a few years, but how would Pepiot compare to a guy like Tony Gonsolin? As is. Obviously, the jump to the major leagues, it's hard to project what's it going to look like, but from a stuff perspective, from an upside perspective, just for this year, would you say Pepiot is a better option than a guy like Tony Gonsolin moving forward?
In terms of stuff, Pepiot's stuff is going to be above Gonsolin's. Now, Gonsolin's stuff maybe back in this 2020 was above where it was now, especially the fastball. But Pepiot's stuff is, I would say, above that. It's going to be a mid-90s fastball with ride at the top of the zone. He loves throwing his high spin changeup. Now, most guys throw that kind of changeup. Usually when you're throwing a changeup, you want to kill spin. A lot of the best changeups do that very well. But there are some outliers there, most notably Devin Williams of Milwaukee Brewers, who throw that high spin changeup that spins like a breaking ball, but is still very effective. Changeup is like. And his breaking ball this year has been better. It's a slider. It's gotten more movement. He's throwing it a little better. And, just having that third pitch helps him a lot, especially, when you're going through a lineup 2 or 3 times.
Yeah. Yeah, well, so the question for me with Pepiot is, and I try to explain this on Twitter, which is impossible to explain just about anything on Twitter, is when it comes to, hey, the Dodgers decide they want to sort of go for a 6-man rotation at the start of this, 31 games in 30 days kind of a thing. So there's an opening. And they said some of the names initially, is Andre Jackson take that spot? Does Robbie Erlin take that spot? Or does it go to a guy like Pepiot? And my only question is the 40-man roster. Pepiot is the only of the 3 who's not on the 40-man roster. We know the Dodgers as a deep organization, 40-man roster spots are like prized possessions. And so my only question, I'm curious to get your perspective, is I have no doubt that Pepiot is the best of those 3 options to start a game if the Dodgers want to win on Wednesday. For me, it's why would you lock yourself into a guy who is now going to take up a 40-man roster spot for the remainder of this year and obviously moving forward when there's not really a path forward for him at the major league level? Because we haven't even mentioned Andrew Heaney, who is the 6th MLB quality starting pitcher who they're expecting back in the next couple of weeks. They already have a guy like Erlin, Mitch White, Andre Jackson, who, again, are not as good as Pepiot, but they're already on the 40-man roster. They're already there. So for you, does it make sense to take up a 40-man roster spot just to get Pepiot a start on Wednesday and then sort of leave him in limbo moving forward?
So I think right now it makes more sense than if you would ask the same question a month ago. And this is, of course, because of the recent news about Blake Trinan and Victor Gonzalez. Both of those guys, from what it seems like, their injuries are serious enough to where they can go on the 60-day IL and not take up a roster spot. Now, you have two guys who are on the 40-man but not on the 40-man because of the COVID IL designation in Mitch White and David Price. They will need spots back, but the Dodgers are only at 39 spots right now. So you can add those two back. You can move Trinan and Gonzalez over the 60-day and open up 2 spots, and you can add Ryan Pepiot. Now, you're going to need a spot for Caleb Ferguson at some point, who's been pitching in OKC on a rehab aassignment. He's on the 60-day IL, so he's not. Actually, I take that back. I don't think he's on the 60-day IL, so I don't think he's taking up a spot. Misspoke there. But it does make more sense now, I think, beyond that, if you're looking for a 40-man spot, if you want someone after Pepiot, Robbie Erlin probably isn't going to be on the Dodgers playoff roster unless something amazing happens, which is he just starts, something horrible happens, and they have a series of injuries that require Robbie Erlin to be on that roster. Reyes Maranta is a guy they added a couple weeks ago. He's pitched well so far, but another guy who might be on the 40-man fringe if they need a spot. And look, Pepiot needs to be added at the end of this year anyways. Okay. And if they do see him as a potential, maybe not late inning, but mid-leverage relief option, which he certainly can be if he just goes fastball, changeup out for 1 inning, 3 or 4 hitters effectively at the major league level, they might add him later in the summer anyway. So maybe you bring him up, get his feet wet a little bit, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him up later in the summer, especially if these bullpen injuries keep piling up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great point. It's something to keep in mind that they'd have to add him sort of this upcoming offseason no matter what to protect him for the Rule 5 draft, which obviously they will be doing. Because you mentioned the 60-day IL stuff is what scares me. You were right. Ferguson is not on the 60-day IL, so he's already on the 40-man. But Danny Duffy's a guy who's on the 60-day IL, and he's beginning to throw. He's said he could be back in the month of June. Dustin May is another guy on the 60-day IL that they're expecting back at some point this season. And so it just feels like a crunch is coming. Now, to your point, if you think you're going to add him at some point later in the season anyways because he's going to be a bullpen arm, then you might as well do it now. He's obviously better than a guy like Reyes Maranta, Robbie Erlin, 2 of the guys you mentioned. And even if you do move Trinan and Gonzalez to the 60-day, those guys could potentially be back at some point this season. You would cross your fingers, and so then you would need those spots back anyways. But I suppose all of that is a problem for another day. The conversation today is Ryan Pepiot going to be the starter Wednesday? You and I don't know, but it sounds like we're both excited about the possibility. We think he can be successful at the major league level today. Is that an accurate assessment of your perception of this, Justin?
Yeah, they're going to throw him like a 5-and-dive guy, especially, again, doesn't guarantee anything, but against the Pirates, there are a lot worse scenarios you could throw a guy into for his major league debut. And they're going to need some starts over this next month or so stretch where they have a ton of games. And if Pepiot comes up and can do that, great, because who knows if someone else in the rotation needs to take a breather or, hopefully doesn't get injured, but things happen.
Yeah. Here's my Jedi mind trick idea is that Ryan Pepiot's body is already on a different time zone clock. And because this is going to be a 9:30 a.m. West Coast start on Wednesday in Pittsburgh, that this is Friedman working the body clock a little bit, saying he wants the guy who's the body clock's already on that time zone. So that's my working theory for why we're talking about Ryan Pepiot here. We'll who knows if that's true? Probably not. Probably highly unlikely, but there you go. That's Justin Lorber. My name's Jeff Spiegel. We appreciate you checking us out. You can check Justin's stuff on all the Dodgers prospects and all Dodgers news at Future Dodgers on Twitter. As always, DodgerBlue.com, DodgerBlue1958 on social media. And please subscribe, ring the notification bell here as well. We appreciate you joining us. We'll see you next time.